it's a clear example of how active the Central Bank of Europe is. Now, there's been a lot of discussion last week. The Germans are now settling in and agreeing that the Central Bank of Europe can buy bonds and hold down the yield of bonds, push up the price, but hold down the yield for governments. That was questionable under the constitution of Germany. So the German Constitutional Court has said, look, we can't stop it. The only court who can stop it is the European Central Court. And they're not going to stop it. So the capital markets, the debt markets, and particularly the banks who are trading bonds, are doing so absolutely on the belief that the Central Bank of Europe will not let the bond market fail in Europe. That's why they've paid up and bought Irish bonds, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese. I mean, it's bizarre. Now that's no different to the subprime crisis of 07, where the same institutions bought subprime debt off American investment banks on the belief that they wouldn't fail, based on a AAA rated guarantee from AIG and other wrappers. Now we've got the biggest wrap of all time, that the Central Bank of Europe, only because you can rely on it to print money, is underwriting the total bond market of Europe. And the banks are prepared to completely disregard risk, completely disregard pricing, and just buy this stuff. That's scary. There's a bit of a FUD there, there's a reason. When you sit in Ireland and say, how the hell could they raise money cheaper than Australia? And then you realise it's a completely contrived market. It's a joke. Yeah? Now what's scary about it, yes, there's printed money going into that market, but there's other people's money going into that market. The life savings of people, of pension funds, are going into buying bonds at ridiculously low yields issued by countries which are insolvent. It's bizarre. Now that's as bad, if not worse, than 07 in terms of a financial calamity, possibility. And we're only acting on the basis that there's only two ways out of this, that somehow Europe resolves itself and recovers. That's great, work out. Or the central bank just keeps on buying oblivious, just keeps on printing money. It never ends. I think markets invariably have an adjustment where all of a sudden the lights come on and people say, what are we doing buying this stuff? It's not a good enough excuse to own an asset because you believe the central bank's going to buy it off you at a higher price. That is the ultimate stupid investment process. And that's the Ponzi scheme of all time, where the central bank creates a Ponzi scheme where it buys and sells off you bonds at a higher and higher price to make you feel good, to keep the economy going, to keep the community happy. Well, when do you stop doing it? At zero? Yeah. Now, quite clearly, the market will pull out of that and say, no, we don't want to play this game anymore at some point. It'll get too big, and it'll be too big for the central bank. By avoiding, the necessary restructure of government debt around the world, by avoiding that, and that's a hard decision because you'd have to have private banks and private investors take a haircut. But if you want to avoid that, you create a bigger problem somewhere down the track, because the market will lose confidence in the market mechanism.